My name is Judy Bethman, and I'm part of your Sunday service team for August 29th, 2021. We now have a few announcements. Okay. Okay. Early birds meet Sunday morning at 9:30 via Zoom. They are reading the book, Your Untethered Soul, is that correct? And apparently there's been some rip-roaring discussions with that book. Upcoming speakers for September. September 5th, Reverend Randy Granger. September 12th, Reverend Kamatara. September 19th, Jeannie Geringer. And September 26th, Dr. Edward Burrowbaugh. Our office stay has changed to Thursday from 9 till noon. This is to accommodate my adult tap dancing class, which is on Friday. And lastly, our prayer team remains ready to serve and support you. You may submit a request via our webpage, or you may contact Martha Ward or Geneva Collins with your request. Our prayer team meets virtually on Tuesday afternoons at 4:15 to pray with you. You may consider sitting in your quiet space during that time. We know we are one in spirit, and the energy of prayer has no limits. All right. Our invocation. Let's sit back and take a deep breath. Great Spirit, we rejoice that we are one with all beings. We recognize and encourage Spirit's expression in others as well in ourselves. We celebrate the creativity and growth that come with living in community. As we join together, we co-create a world of abundance for all. And so it is. Okay, please stand if you are able, and let's sing Top of the World. Such a feeling's coming over me. There is wonder in most everything I see. Not a cloud in the sky, feel like I could almost fly on a golden breeze around the next sunbeam. Everything I want the world to be is now coming true, especially for me. And the reason is clear, out of spirit joy appears. Life's the nearest thing to heaven that I see. I'm on the top of the world looking down on creation, and the only explanation I can find is the love that I found and the kindness all around. Spirit puts me at the top of the world. Something in the wind has learned my name, and it's telling me that things are the same. In the leaves on the trees and the touch of the breeze, there's a pleasing sense of happiness for me. There is only one thought on my mind, that this day is filled with good of every kind. Ah, thank you. Please be seated and let's read together our mission, our vision, mission, and affirmation. Our vision: to elevate spiritual consciousness in our world. Our mission: to support individual spiritual quests through celebration, study, counsel, loving fellowship, and service. Our affirmation: I am aware of all the good that is within and around me. Good flows through me and out into the world, touching all with whom I interact. I recognize my divine center and know that this divinity exists in all that is. I am grateful for the creative power within me and allowed to flow and shape my experiences. And so it is. The first song we're going to do for you today is There's a Balm in Gilead. Now, most of you know that there is a balm is like a salve, and I wondered what Gilead needed a salve for. What did Gilead do? Is Gilead a person, place, or a thing? So, good thing for Google. I Googled Gilead. Gilead is the hill country west of Jerusalem. And I thought, well, what did Gilead do that needed a balm? Well, it turns out there is a special shrub that grows in Gilead, and Gilead makes the balm for medicinal purposes. I've sung this song for like 40 years and never knew all that information. So see, we learn something new every day. Every day we learn something new. Okay. There is a Well, the topic for this morning is healing and how you can heal yourself and work with your physicians and your friends to help heal you. And the first video is by Deepak Chopra. And Google says he's an Indian American author and alternative medicine advocate. A prominent figure in the New Age movement, his books and videos have made him one of the best known and wealthiest figures in alternative medicine. He was born October 22nd, 1946, so he's 74 years old, older than me. Finally, somebody I found older than me. Hope you enjoy this first video on healing. Oh, I forgot my reading. All right. Here we go. All right, does anybody know the answer? The first question is, it is all spirit. You know, after 2 or 3 years, you're going to get this. Okay? What is the answer? The answer is love. Thank you. And? Okay. The first one is what? It is all? Spirit? Love? Change your thinking, change your life. Okay. The reading this morning is going to be a slideshow presentation, and I'll read as the slides come along. Okay. These are all quotes by Ernest Holmes about healing. A realization of the presence of God is the most powerful healing agency known to the mind of man. Next. Anyone can heal who believes that he can and will take the time to put that belief into motion. Healing is the result of clear thinking. Know that nothing can hinder you but yourself. Know that nothing can hinder you but yourself. If you believe you can, you can. Healing is the discovery of the divine within. Is there one more? No. Okay. So Deepak Chopra's video is first.
Deepak, it's common knowledge in medicine that the mind has a very strong interaction with the immune system, with our sense of well-being, and over time this has become even more part of core Western medicine. How do you reflect on it? It's something that you've worked on very intensely with many different people, but also in the scientific community, in terms of how the mind can actually heal and help the body.
First of all, Robert, in the deeper domains of consciousness, mind and body are the same thing. Mind is the subjective experience of consciousness, and the body is the objective experience of consciousness. Okay? And I experience them both in consciousness. Where do I experience my mind? As thoughts, feelings, emotions? In my consciousness. Where do I experience my body? As this solid object, which it isn't, by the way, in consciousness. Okay, so there are different modes of experiencing consciousness. Yes, in the Western systems of thought, scientific systems of thought, there's been a separation between the mind and the body, the classic Cartesian dualism. However, if you talk to scientists these days, they don't believe in the classic Cartesian dualism. They believe in what they say is non-dualism. But of course, they have different interpretations of that dualism. So the materialists say there's only matter. And the other people say there's only mind. Yeah. Well, I'm saying there's neither. Okay, they're experiencing.
You're not saying there's both. You're saying there's neither.
Yeah, there's neither. It's consciousness. Okay. Now, if you look at the word healing, it's a very interesting word etymologically. Healing, health, wholeness. So in my view, it's how you define healing. Healing is the return of the memory of wholeness. It's a shift in identity, ultimately, from a skin-encapsulated ego identity to the enlightened identity, ultimately. It's a state of primordial being. In that state of primordial being, there's self-repair, self-organization, self-evolution, all the attributes of consciousness. And so, yes, a movement in the direction of wholeness will repair the body. Okay, may not repair it completely, but you know, when I say healing, in fact, as a physician, you don't use the word healing. I'm a physician. I trained in internal medicine, endocrinology, neuroscience, not neuroscience in the classical sense, but neuroendocrinology. So if I use the word healing, you're a charlatan. Okay, doctors don't heal. They practice, and they keep practicing, or they treat, but they never heal. But it's true now, we've known for 30 years that when people are stressed, they have high cortisol levels, they have high adrenaline, and their platelets get sticky because these are little platelets in their fragmented consciousness. They're huddling together in their fright, and they give you a heart attack because they clog. So you look at it from a consciousness perspective, healing is the most fundamental experience. Unless you're born with a congenital defect or something, you're already healed. You're whole. You have not started the mistake of the intellect that separates your mind from the body. It's a state of homeostasis. Homeostasis is a state of dynamic non-change in the midst of change. And it's a fundamental state. So yes, it's not that the mind heals the body. When you get out of the way of both the mind and the body, they both heal themselves.
But it has to go through the immune system and white cells and the endocrine system. Which
Those
is your
are
original
the
field.
metabolic pathways that we map out to symbolically represent a return to wholeness.
Okay, but those are causative in the process, right? I mean, if you didn't have that, you wouldn't have the result.
On one level, yes. On another level, metaphor. On one level, yes, you need the self-repair mechanisms, the immunomodulation, the homeostasis to kick in.
So how does that happen? How does that happen?
If you want to look at it on a very simple level, when your mind is agitated, your body is agitated, because they're both the same thing. Okay, your mental activity is turbulent, your body gets turbulent. Your mental activity is inflamed, hostility, anger, guilt, shame, your body gets inflamed. Okay, that's on a one level. Your mental activity is one of peace, then the body gets quietened because the mind is quietened. Okay, and then the self-repair mechanisms come in. Love, not love as a mere emotion, but love as the fundamental truth that there's no separation. That fundamental experience of love, which people now call unconditional love, and they give all kinds of names to it, but love is not a mere sentiment or an emotion. It's the ultimate truth at the heart of creation, that there are no boundaries. When you experience that, then again self-repair mechanisms kick in. So yes, we can physiologically map this, and we're going to map this. We just finished and awarded a prize at our foundation to someone who showed that within 4 days of meditation, telomerase, which is an enzyme that controls basically a biological clock because it controls the length of telomeres, went up 40% in 4 days. And the scientists couldn't believe it. These are scientists from UCSD, UCSF, and Harvard collaborating. They had to repeat the experiment many, many times to convince themselves that these results were true. And now, one of the scientists doing the entire genome in the same blood samples, 4 days after meditation, we've saved the blood samples to see a genetic activity. Because genes are not fixed structures. Genes are activities in consciousness. A gene is not a noun, it's a verb. It's a happening in consciousness.
So as we look to the future, how important is the mind to the body? Is this something that is absolutely central to medical practices?
I think we have to redefine what healing means. We have to redefine what health means. We have to redefine, because you can be physically healed and still have the fear of death and live miserably, right? In fear, agitation. Is that healing? I don't think so. You can be physically having a terminal illness and come to peace with your mortality because there's an aspect of existence that is immortal. And as the Sufis say, I'm not just a drop in the ocean, I'm also the ocean in the drop. Okay, so I can shift to that identity. You have to redefine what healing is, and we have to take the best technology and understanding of science to somehow bring them together to, you see, science is never going to go away, nor is the yearning for meaning, which is a very spiritual thing, okay, which is a religious experience, not defined as religious, they're neither going to go away forever. And so it might as well bring them together to destroy the world or bring them together to heal the world. And I think that's possible. We will have technologies that will be biosensors, digital technologies, where you can take your smartphone, put it to your heart, have your EKG read by a computer, and the treatment delivered remotely. I think that'll happen. I think we'll be able to seed galaxies with the human genome using remote control technology. We'll email the information, remote control technology, use stardust to reproduce ourselves in other galactic systems. But that'll happen. But it'll only happen if you bring consciousness and technology together.
As a point of personal privilege, there's a lot of feedback. What happened to the mic? Okay. The night before my kidney cancer surgery, Reverend Sand came over and we had a treatment, and he said, Judy, let's love away the tumor and your kidney. And that made me so relaxed that the surgery was very, very easy. So it's just a matter of how you approach things in terms of healing. Okay, this next one is by Joe Dispenza, D.C., doctor of who knows, I don't know, is the best-selling author of Evolve Your Brain, The Science of Changing Your Mind, which was written in 2007, and Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, How to Lose Your Mind and Create a New One, and that was written in 2012, both of which detail the neuroscience of change and epigenetics. Really, epigenetics. Okay, are you ready for this one?
Once you understand that formula, the side effect of that is a change in biology. Your immune system goes up, you lengthen your telomeres, you're changing the future of your body, you're extending your life. When you begin to create from the field instead of from matter, the only way you can do that is you have to learn how to take all of your attention off your body and become a nobody. Take all of your attention off all the people in your life that you give so much of your attention and energy to because you have an emotion associated with them. And get beyond all the people in your life and go from a someone to a no one. Now, if you've worked your whole life being a someone, or if you've been working your whole life thinking that you're your body, you're gonna have to work a little harder because that's your identity. Sure. That's what you're associated with. So then you have to go get beyond all the things in your life, your cell phone, your computer, your car, and literally go from something to nothing. You have to take all your attention off the place you work, the place you live, the place you need to be, the place you're sitting, and go from somewhere to nowhere. You got to stop thinking about the predictable future and the familiar past and go right into the present moment and go from some time to no time. And if you do that properly, you become pure consciousness. And that's how you enter the field. Now, we've done the research on this. We call it getting beyond the self. Now, once you are pure consciousness, you're taking all of your attention off this three-dimensional reality. Now, where you place your attention is where you place your energy. So if you've taken all of your attention off of everything material, there's only one place you're going to wind up, and that is the immaterial realm called the quantum field, an invisible field of energy that unifies and connects everything material. So now when you're creating from the field and you combine a clear intention with an elevated emotion and you're connected and you feel connected, the suggestion of an alternative way to create is that when there's a vibrational match between your energy and some future reality, you actually no longer have to go anywhere to get it. You're actually the vortex, and you will collapse space and time and draw the experience to you. Is a lot more fun. You can't predict when it's going to happen or how it's going to happen, because if you can predict it, it's known. So then you have to lay down the very thing you use your whole life to get what you want for something greater to occur. Now that goes against generations untold of conditioning and a lifetime of habituation, believing that we're trapped in this material world. And yet, I can say to you, without a doubt, that once you understand that formula, and once you know how to create that kind of brain and heart coherence, the side effect of that is a change in biology, neurologically, chemically, hormonally, genetically. We've measured it. We've seen gene regulation changes in 4 days. More brain coherence, more heart coherence. Your brain's working better. Your heart is, you're trusting your heart. It's open. There's different chemicals that are released. Oxytocin suppresses survival centers, resets the baseline of a person's trauma or shock. Your immune system goes up. You lengthen your telomeres. We've measured that too. So you're changing the future of your body. You're extending your life. That's evidence. So we have the evidence to know that it could happen because we've measured it. But the real evidence is watching the testimonial of someone who says, I had stage 4 cancer. I was told as a 41-year-old woman that I wouldn't live for more than 2 months. And I have no evidence of cancer in my body at all. Or someone that's a physician who has Parkinson's disease that's tried everything from the medical route and has one transcendental moment, and their tremors and their pain are gone. Then now they're chewing food, they're swallowing, they're blowing their nose, they're standing up on their own. That's energy affecting matter. So we have hundreds and hundreds of testimonials of people that not only healed their body, but created pretty profoundly magical things in their life. So you have evidence in the scientific world, you have evidence in the practical world, and evidence is the loudest voice right now. And the accelerator of that whole process is witnessing it. Because I'll stand on the stage, and I watched a man stand on the stage and tell his testimony of his healing. I looked out in the audience. There wasn't a person in the audience that was thinking about anything else. They were witnessing truth right before their eyes, a miracle. Now, you see that, and you look at the person, it doesn't look like a movie star, doesn't look like a vegetarian, doesn't look like they're buffed, doesn't look like they're different than anybody else. They just look like an average person. And the most common thought that happens when you witness that is, if that person can do it, so could I. And that drops the belief right away. You cannot go back to being the same person after you witness that. It's impossible. You're witnessing that type of transformation. And stroke patients that have had a paralyzed limb for years or been blinded by a stroke, that have perfect vision again. And the scans from their physician shows a complete 100% recovery. Now, strokes don't heal if they don't heal in 2 weeks, according to the conventional model of medicine. And nerves don't really come back online if they've been damaged after a period of time. And yet we're witnessing those kind of supernatural changes. So then the belief, the subconscious belief that that is impossible. You may say, oh yeah, I believe that a person can be healed. Yeah, I believe in miracles. But when it comes time to actually execute them, you got to step outside a little bit and you got to trust a whole lot. So then when you start witnessing it, it becomes like a brush fire. We see in our events, once we start seeing those healings, we know it's going to just get better and more phenomenological. And then the side effect of that is a person with Raynaud's syndrome who has incredible sensitivity to cold, that has an immune problem, that is, you can't go out of their house. They stand on the stage and they say, I cannot believe it. I was just outside. It's November in London. I have no pain in my hands. And someone in the audience watches the same thing. We had 4 people at that event with Raynaud's syndrome go into complete recovery, into complete remission. So just like an infection spreads amongst the community and creates disease, all of a sudden health and wellness can be as infectious as disease. And wow, and all of a sudden it's the new consciousness, it's the new way. It's so we don't have to rely on something outside of us. Do we need a sugar pill, saline injection, or some false surgery or procedure to change our state of being? I mean, do you need some external influence? Because the sugar pill is a symbol. It's a symbol of possibility, and the person has been conditioned that pills heal people. So they put their power into it, and the moment the physician says, this is a new drug, and the physician is enthusiastic or excited about it, that enthusiasm becomes contagious. And the person all of a sudden sees the possibility in their mind. They actually see a future, that they actually could be healthy or better. That's a clear intention. And when they feel optimistic, when they feel inspired, when they feel grateful, when they're changing their emotions or energy, they're combining a clear intention with an elevated emotion. And of thoughts of the vocabulary of the brain and feelings of the vocabulary of the body, and how you think and how you feel creates your state of being. They just moved from their past present state of being into a future present state of being. They began to change their brain and body by thought alone. So then, do you need that sugar pill, or can you just do it without it? In depression studies where they give someone a placebo and they say this is the best drug for depression, 4 out of 5 people that are in the placebo study get better or do as well as people who are taking the actual antidepressant. That's 80%, right? But here's the deal. They've been taking that sugar pill for about 8 weeks. Every day, taking that pill and combining that clear intention with an elevated emotion, they're moving into a new state of being. So what that means is you got to do the work. That means you actually have to practice sitting down, getting beyond all the people in your life, all the things you need to do. You got to get beyond your body wanting to get up and go because it's been programmed that way. And you got to tell your body, you're not getting up until I say. Now, this is when you come out of the bleachers and you get on the playing field, because now you have to go from the known self, disentangle from those programs, and exist in the unknown and possibilities. So then the person who's combining the clear intention with an elevated emotion and not relying on some external or exogenous substance, they're doing it by thought alone, changing their state of being, I guarantee you it's going to begin to become a habit. And they're going to know when they're there and when they're not. And the word meditation means to become familiar with. So then the more you become familiar with how you feel in changing that state of being, the easier it will be for you to do it with your eyes open as well as your eyes closed. And if you go back to the old state of being, there's a good probability that your pain or your condition will come back. So there's this kind of waltz that goes on when people are learning how to heal and change. They take a few steps forward and then a few steps back, and then 3 steps forward and only 1 step back. And they got to practice this self-regulating. They got to practice what they're paying attention to, what they're unconscious of. And if you stay with it for a long enough period of time, all of a sudden now the person reaches a point, we've measured what happens, where their chemistry changes so dramatically that they're literally in love with life. Now, imagine what happens when oxytocin is released in the quantities that we see. Oxytocin signals nitric oxide. Nitric oxide signals a chemical called endothelial-derived relaxing factor. And that's a big word or set of words that just means a chemical that signals the arteries in your heart to literally expand. And when they expand, you're getting more blood flow in there. And just like when your sexual organs are aroused and there's blood flow in there, now with the same intensity, you're going to feel it right in your heart, and it's going to be way bigger. And now the person's heart is wide open. Now, so here's the question. A person feels those emotions. Do you think they're going to want to judge somebody else in that moment? You think they're going to want to hold a grudge? They're not going to try to forgive. They're going to feel so amazing. They're not going to want to lose this feeling, and they're just going to say, I forgive you. I'm not going to give this feeling up. Now that's the side effect of true transformation. The side effect is a greater level of consciousness. The side effect is a greater skill set in life. And I think that when you start getting good at this, then all the things you thought you wanted, you no longer want, because when you're creating more brain and heart coherence, you feel more whole. And the more whole you feel, the less you live in lack. So how could you want many things if you feel whole? It feels like you already have them. And that's actually when you start to see those wonderful miracles, those synchronicities, those serendipities, those coincidences happening in a person. Those are experiences coming to them. That's the field dropping breadcrumbs saying, keep going, keep going. And there's a synchronization between that person's energy and their future. And the side effect of that are signs. And that's when it gets to be exciting, because every sign does what? It creates an enthusiasm, an excitement. And you're kind of going, hey, there's another sign. I'm going to go do it again. So now you're not going, oh, I have to meditate today. Oh, geez, I got to create my life. You're like, oh my God, I don't want the magic to stop happening. I'm going to get into it. And every synchronicity creates that elevated emotion, and you use that energy for the next creation, and people come out of their past. Body's a protein producing machine. Every single cell in your body except red blood cells makes proteins. Muscle cells make muscle proteins, actin and myosin. Skin cells make skin proteins, collagen and elastin. Your stomach cells make stomach proteins called enzymes. Your immune system makes immune proteins called antibodies or immunoglobulins. Your eye cells make eye proteins called keratin. So your body's a protein-producing machine. And in order for those cells to make proteins, a gene has to be regulated. So then they used to say genes create disease. Lie. It's an absolute lie. There's a very small percentage, about 5 to 1% of the people on the planet are born with a true genetic condition like type 1 diabetes. The other 95 to 99% is created from lifestyle or behaviors. Two identical twins sharing the same genome. One dies at 52, the other one dies at 88. Well, what happened there? It was the reaction to the environment that caused their genes to be switched on or upregulated to make a healthy protein, or downregulated to make a cheaper protein. And it turns out that when you're living in stress and living in survival, you're living in emergency mode, and that's not a time for growth and repair. That's a time to mobilize all the body's energy, all its resources from some endangered situation, real or imagined, in their life. So if you're living in emergency mode for an extended period of time, and you keep signaling that gene, well, my goodness, it makes sense then that over time, the gene's going to begin to wear out, just like taking a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. Sooner or later, you're going to start making a cheaper protein. So the expression of proteins literally is the expression of life. Is it possible then to signal the gene ahead of the environment? The answer is absolutely yes. Because if a person's waiting for their wealth to feel abundance, if they're waiting for their health to feel wholeness and gratitude, if they're waiting for their new relationship to feel love, they're living by the old model of reality of cause and effect, waiting for something out there to change to make them feel better. And here, take away their lack or emptiness. But the moment the person embraces the emotion ahead of the event, if they understood what they were doing and why they were doing it, then if the environment signals the gene, and it does, and the end product of an experience in the environment is an emotion, when you embrace the emotion ahead of the experience, you're signaling the gene ahead of the environment. And if genes make proteins, and proteins are responsible for the structure and function of your body, you begin to become that very person. So it's not our wealth, it's not our health, it's not our new relationships, it's not the things we accumulate, it's who we become. So we overcome the old self, which takes a great act of will and awareness, and we become somebody else. So then when you become it, nobody can take that away from you. You know that you know how to do it, or you know that you are it. And an abundant person doesn't say, I'm abundant, I'm abundant, I'm abundant, or a healthy person doesn't say, I'm healthy, I'm healthy, I'm healthy. They don't say that, they are it. So then most people have just been fooled by their senses, because their 5% of their conscious mind is holding the intent, but their body is habituated into a predictable future or emotionally conditioned into the past. And they're saying, I'm healthy, I'm healthy, I'm healthy, or I'm happy, and the body's going, you're miserable. You're unhappy. That thought can't even make it past the brainstem to the body. Teaching people how to self-regulate They have no idea when they started changing their emotional states, the amount of biological and energetic changes that take place within them and all around them. So then develop that skill and get really good at this. Then for the most part, you wouldn't be so interested in so many material things. You would be interested in facing off with yourself every day and asking, what is it that stands in the way between me and my future? What is it that stands in the way between me and my connection to the quantum field? So I think that's the real question.
So now we have our affirmative prayer. And when we talk about the very first part of affirmative prayer, we talk about acknowledging the all that there is. And I think we just heard something called the quantum field, source, the all that there is. And so we accept and acknowledge that that is in fact the truth, that God is all there is, that this divine omni-being is the ocean of which we're a drop. And in that drop is the entire ocean, and that drop is us. And we are a piece and a part of the ocean, and the ocean is a piece and a part of us. And actually there is no differentiation between spirit and each and every one of us. From that, we know that everything that comes from spirit, everything in that quantum field is ours to have, to utilize. So as we heard today about changing your thinking, change your life, it goes far beyond just changing how happy you are, but it actually changes your physical being as well. And this aspect of healing is tremendously exciting to me. Because as many folks at Joe Dispenza workshops have witnessed, they have had true healings of the physical body. So I just know that that is also true for me and for each and every one of you, everyone in the sound of my voice, everyone on this Zoom call, and everyone in the universe. Everyone can make that change in their life, that change in their body, by making the change of opening themselves, opening their heart, tearing down the walls of protection between each of us or between one and another of us. So today we want to take this energetic field that has built up from these speakers and from just the mere presence of one another. We see that field reaching out to everyone in our community who's in need of something, need of comfort, need of health. We just know that everything in this universe is truly on their side and on our side. That every experience we have is there for our benefit. And we particularly focus on the affairs of the world right now. We may not understand it, but we know that in the midst of all that, whatever that is God, is Spirit, unfolding in perfection through that experience, through those individuals. And we don't know what good will come from that, but we do know, we firmly believe that good will come from everything. So we give great thanks for this understanding, for this philosophy, the idea that we can change our thinking and change our life. We're grateful for that. And we know that as we set the intention and we speak, that it is done. The law of the universe responds to our intention, to our thoughts, to our speaking of such things. And so we just place us in that law, in the universal goodness, and we release it and we let it go, and we know that it is done. And so it is.
In every life some darkness falls. You've looked around and lost it all. When your loved ones can't be there, oh, who will you call? Just remember who you are, a miracle child of the stars. When your world is all gone wrong, come and sing this song. I am becoming stronger. I am becoming whole. I'll walk in beauty, in the healing light of love, in the healing, in the healing, in the healing light of love. Some things in life just can't be shared or redone and repaired. Look inside to find this song. You can forgive and move on. I am becoming stronger. I am becoming whole. I'll walk in beauty, Okay. It's time for our offering. As we acknowledge and receive our virtual and in-person gifts, we give great thanks for the offerings already given and those we will be receiving, because we know that giving and receiving are both parts of the one flow. We affirm that we are also part of that flow. We bless these gifts and know they are multiplied throughout our community. All right, there are a number of folks who have contributed to this production of this service. We are grateful for their service, and we thank you out there in Zoom land and here in Sanctuary for joining us today. And lastly, stay around in the Zoom meeting after service or join us in the social hall. Please stand with me as we read the benediction followed by our congregational song. Spirit in the midst of us is mighty. Joy, peace, and eternal life are our true nature and flow through us into the world. And so it is. Thank you, everyone. Have a great week.